Alright, welcome back. I've got another fun and easy class for you today. I'm not going to show a sample. I figured we'd leave a little mystery, but we're going to be doing a very fun and whimsical peacock. So the only thing I'm kind of sketching in first with my watercolor pencil is basically just the head and neck. So if you see here, we can use kind of a circle for the head shape, and then when we bring the neck down, we want to bring a little curvature to it. So have it kind of curve down and then in, and then kind of being continuous off the back side and kind of curve down and back a little bit. And then on the beak, I just have a little part coming out here. Oops, let me wet my colors here first. So we're going to be using our blues and our greens and maybe a little purple. So, and then we'll mix some black too. So that should be pretty good there. All right. So we're going to go ahead and bring out both blues. So we have our ultramarine blue here, which we'll kind of put that right there. Get that a little more inky. All right. I've got a dirty water cup over here. Then that way I can come back in with a clean brush so I'm not contaminating my colors. A little bit of the phthalo blue. I'll go ahead and bring some of this viridian green in. And I'm going to use a little bit of my magenta, and that's what I'll use to make my purple with. All right. Okay, so I'm going to do a little mix between these two for this part of the body. I will want to go ahead and try to leave the part of the eye white. So I'll kind of start up around there. So let's say because part of around the eye is going to be black. So where I'm going to be putting the actual eye, okay, I can kind of bring that around there. So that inside part is where I want it to stay, want that to stay white inside there. I can put black over this blue, but I won't be able to, I'd have to use an opaque white. So I'm just going to kind of work on this basic shape here. Fill that in. I'm going to keep pulling where the edges are wet because I don't want to leave like that kind of brush stroke or outline to it. So see, I'm going to fill that all in, and then I'm going to come in around this way, bring that on, and then I'm going to pull all of that. I don't want to necessarily stop in a distinctive line here. And all I want to do is just kind of smooth my color out. Okay. And that is about all I need to do. So if I wanted to maybe darken up a little bit, like in here, kind of underneath this part, I can just pull in a little bit of the ultramarine blue. And again, I want to have a nice, kind of a soft transition between those colors. And we'll kind of let that dry. So what I'm going to do down here is start building. It's a very loose artistic impression of some of the feathers of the peacock. So the important thing I need to do is to remember to leave open white space. So if I come in here with some of this blue, and I'm going to just be kind of dabbing, I'm going to be pushing around, using a little more of the side of the brush. Okay. Just leaving some open space there. All right. Now I can come in, pick up some of this green. I'm going to do that same thing, maybe a little thinner on that. Okay, doesn't, again, I don't need to put it everywhere. I'm going to leave a little white space so I've got room to kind of put in my magentas. Okay. And now if I come in here with my magenta and some of this blue to give me some purple. So when I kind of mix these blues, it just kind of helps to bring a little bit of those blues into everything. Now I'm using the blue for the purple, just trying to keep my colors a little more harmonious. So I don't have to really, I'm not aiming for any specific, you know, design or pattern. I just want it to be organic, interesting, textured. That's really kind of my end goal here. If I wanted to go over this a little bit more and maybe go ahead and start to bring another layer in just to bring up a little more intensity, I tend to like to work in layers rather than going my full intensity all at once, because, you know, I can kind of incorporate different tones of that color. It also gives me a chance, if I make a mistake, I can kind of come back from it a little bit better. You know, if I have to lift something out, it's not super dark. And I would say, like, in my classes, that's probably the thing I see that people can make the biggest mistake on, is going too dark too quick. So each time that we bring in another layer, it allows for not only intensity, but also we can, you know, work on texture within that too. You'll see, even though I'm changing the shape of that body a little bit from what I originally have, that's all fine. I think I kind of like his back coming up along there a little bit more. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of let this dry a little bit before I come back and do anything else to it. I can kind of always tap in a little more, another layer to those, and just get that more layering effect. But I am going to go ahead and do some of the little, kind of the plume area here. So I'm just going to tap in a few of those. I'm just going to bring a little green into those, just like what I did down here, and a little bit of that purple. And then I will kind of connect these little crown feathers with the black that I do for the beak and around the eye. So when I do the black, I want a little more control with that, so I'm going to want that to be a little drier. So I do want to let this part here dry around the face, just to make sure that I have the dryness there. So I'll go ahead and work down here a little bit. See if I pick up a little bit of that. And again, I don't need to put it everywhere. I certainly don't need to fill in. The white space is going to help sell the idea that this is fluffy, rather than if I filled it all in with color. So that's something to keep in mind. It's a lot different than maybe if you're used to working with like acrylics and how we layer things that way. I'm just going to bring a little bit more there. Okay, and so you can see here, like even if I'm tapping right over the same purple, just because it's giving me a second layer of that. Just if I can bring a little more dimension and texture into that. And I will do the same with the green. So your purples and greens are colors that you want to be, I'm going to break this. I've got a big patch of green here, so if I kind of bring a little bit of something else in there, that kind of breaks that up a little bit. Your purple and green, like if you have like a dioxazine purple and like a darker green, some, you know, maybe in that hooker green kind of category, those are great colors to mix to make a black. We will be mixing ultramarine blue and the burnt umber to make our black. I do keep a little bit of black in my well, but it's always good to know how to mix black. So I'm going to layer in again, but you have to watch, like if I've got a little bit of that purple, you can see how that green right there, see how it kind of grayed back, and that's because of the purple I've been using. My brush wasn't completely clean, but that's okay. I'm just going to tap in a little bit for extra texture. There we go. That out well. Okay, so now we'll come in. I'll just so this pile, when I make it, I don't want it as soupy. I want my brush to be, my color to be a little more intense, a little more inky. You're not going to get the same kind of black if you use phthalo blue. So when you're mixing this, like you can see here in my little mixing area, it's still more brown because I had a lot of that brown that I picked up in my brush. But if you kind of mix between the two and keep pulling it in, you'll get to the point where you'll see it goes past the brown into the blue. So I'm going to need a little more blue for this. It's getting close. I'll kind of put that there. See there, it's a little more blue, so you kind of mix till you find that kind of point in the middle that's not too blue and not too black. When you mix a color like this, a lot of times you are going to need two layers to get it to dry to a nice intense black. So here I'm going to come in, I'm going to accent. Like making like he's got a little mask on around his eye, and I will come on down, do his beak, a little hook, make him a little sassy. Okay, just made some implied little marks for his connecting those little crown feathers. And then here I'll come in and I will add the pupil area. So I didn't necessarily leave much for my eye reflection. I'll show you how we can add that here with a little cheat later. But I do want to add a little bit of splattering to this. Okay, a little bit around that. this kind of purpley magenta. I think I'll bring a little more of the green. And I can bring some of that right over there on top. Okay. See, the only thing I really see, maybe to kind of make these pop a little bit, since I've got this nice strong magenta here, I'm going to just layer a little bit of that in. Just get a little second layer, bring a little green in just to strengthen those colors in there a little bit. There we go. All right. So now to add that little bit of eye reflection in, because it is so tiny, the easiest thing, let me find mine here, is going to be to use a white gel pen. This is a jelly roll. I got these at Hobby Lobby. I believe they come in a 3-pack, and you can see there, I've got the opaqueness at just like a ballpoint pen. And so here on this, I'll kind of put the eye reflection towards the back. It does help for this to be dry, so mine might still be a little wet still. It's going to be more effective the drier it is. But kind of put that up. If you think of a clock, kind of put it up in kind of this area, so where that pupil is, just to bring a little light reflection to that. And there you have a super easy, fun, whimsical little peacock that you can do for your daily practice or to make note cards. You know, kind of looking at this, I would say, as I kind of tweak and critique what's going on, I think I might actually bring that down a little bit, maybe bring this out. Here's that tricky part when you're adding something when it's already dry, because you're going to get where that difference is. So I'm going to need to let this dry a little bit. And then I have to soften up that edge there. Once I kind of get them matched up here, it'll be a little bit easier to, and I'll kind of blend between them. But this part where this is kind of maybe towards that underbelly side, I can just kind of soften that out there. I just thought for his body it looked like that would be a little more connected that way. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'd love to hear your feedback or any questions you have in the comments below. And if you can subscribe or share this, that would be great. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.